I work on the principle that if you're the dumbest guy in the room, you're usually going to be all right because you're surrounded by pretty smart people or people smarter than you. So the way we looked at it, instead of being reactive or even proactive or anything, we have to stop. We have to think about, okay, where are we going? What's the market looking like? What are people going to do? How's it all going to pan out?
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Food served on planes hasn't always been seen as the height of gastronomic experiences. But in many instances, plane food has changed. Chefs like Neil Perry and Luke Mangan joined different airlines to enhance their food offering. And small artisan producers were brought on board and championed. With the hospitality and aviation sectors collapsing, what has the impact been on small producers supplying those markets? Pierre Issa, otherwise known as Pepe Saya, is one of the world's best butter producers. With half of his business supplying Qantas and the hospitality sector, he's had to change fast to save his business. Pepe, how are you going, mate?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Hux.
There's a lot of things to talk about today, but could you start by telling us what business was like before the pandemic and what impact it had?
Okay, so just before, so the sort of pandemic or the effect of the pandemic hit us around the 23rd, 24th of March. I must admit, March this year for us was an incredible month. It broke all records. So just the background on our business is that we supply cafes, restaurants, function centres, all food service, and then you've got the airlines and then a small part of our business was retail and online. So we've had our online business for about 5 years now as well. So when it hit, when they announced it, that there's going to be, the measures in place for people to stay home and restaurants are going to close and the airlines grounded and all of that happened, we just had a complete drop in sales, like by about 90%. So that Monday morning when we came into work, every single food service order was cancelled. An email came in, cancel the order. So even the bakeries, which make up a big part of our business, everyone was just scared. It was like, no, shut it down. Everyone was like, shut it down. So we were like, oh my God, that week was like, Jesus, what are we going to do here? So it was very, very scary, very scary. But before the pandemic, it was all systems go. Every single sector was just booming. It was like a freight train. So, more cafes were opening up, existing cafes in the market. We get a lot of, we're very proactive with our marketing. So, I was doing a lot of interstate travel to try to get a lot of bakeries on board with our butter sheets and we were gaining more traction with the airlines, especially the international airlines, and it was fantastic. Qantas were opening up more routes and to serve more butter, which was amazing because we love Qantas, and it was very good times. It was good for our business. We're coming in November, we turn 10, so that's what you'd sort of expect at around the 10-year mark, where you're better known in the marketplace, and it was good.
So you had that sudden impact of the pandemic, just literally overnight, ending 90% of your business. How did you feel, and did you have a worry for the future of the business?
Oh, look, yes, the answer is yes. I mean, you lose 90% of anything that you care and love, and you've spent, 10 years building it. You're going to be very worried. There was a little bit of a sense of panic amongst our staff because once, they got up and announced these things, everyone came to work on Monday, and everyone everyone was expecting some kind of, oh, I'm going to be sent home or something was going to happen. So yeah, we were very worried about it, because when you first hear the announcement, you're not really thinking, oh, what could we do to fix this? You're just worried. You're sort of in a bit of a panic.
You managed to change what you do pretty quickly, though, although you were just sort of saying that you didn't think of that initially. There was just that worry and panic. But what have you done to keep the business afloat?
So what we did, I mean, luckily for me, I work on the principle that if you're the dumbest guy in the room, you're usually going to be all right, because you're surrounded by pretty smart people, or people smarter than you. And that's been sort of my sort of go-to thinking from when I first started in this industry. So I always like to be the dumbest guy in the room. Like it gives me a lot of comfort, right? Which, helps me. So we're surrounded by very, very good people that give us really, really good advice. So the way we looked at it, instead of being reactive or even proactive or anything, we have to stop. We have to think about, okay, where are we going? What's the market looking like? What are people going to do? How's it all going to pan out? And then we spoke to our advisors, people that are very close to us, that advise us in our business on a day-to-day, month-to-month level. And we tried to work out, okay, what is this going to look like? And that's what we spent doing the first week, like from that 24th sort of date, 23rd, 24th of March date. So we spent a week working out where we're going, what we're going to do. And we came up with some pretty good solutions. So we worked out, okay, that the bakeries are going to keep going, where everyone's going to want bread, but we are going to lose a lot of the bakery trade. So their trade in butter, for example, is going to drop by half. So to put that in perspective, so say you have a bakery that makes croissants, they're wholesaling part of those croissants out to other cafes or restaurants or food service, or airlines even, but whatever they're selling themselves is going to remain. So we estimated that the bakery trade that we do, like butter sheets and butter for bakery, would be cut by half. And then we knew that retail had to come through. That okay, if restaurants are shut, then retail is going to go big. So we had to sort of position ourselves better in retail, make it easier for the distributors and the shops to access our product, so we could immediately sell into that pipeline. And thirdly, the online. Online was absolutely amazing. Online just went, like, that first week it was very low, but as soon as we started doing, packs and really promoting it, and we got wind of that, more people are going to be staying at home, more people are going to be engaged on social media and online platforms. So we were already there. We just had to really push it a little bit more. And then with the help of a lot of the local, online sites like Broadsheet and the likes, Concrete Playground, Time Out, they really pushed it through. And even Good Food Guide, not Good Food Guide, Good Food, the Lift Out magazine, they really helped us push everything through. So we ended up with a really high demand on that as well.
Do you think moving forward that the online model will be an important part of your business after this crisis?
Look, I really hope so, because it's sort of like your own store, isn't it? So, where people can come to a factory outlet, they can order online, or if you don't have your own store in a busy area, they have online. Now, how that's going to pan out in the long term, I don't know. If it's true what people say, or what the theory is, that people's behaviour changes over a certain amount of time, and then they don't want to go back to how it was, they want to keep moving forward, then yes, it should remain. But even now that the restrictions have eased over the last week or 3 or 4 days, we're seeing a massive drop on online. You know, like this morning we've come in and we've seen a bit of a lift in food service orders, but a drop by about 35% on online orders. So it really is moving. It's just a moving market, you know, and we're just moving with it. And that's, I guess, what we've done really well.
How did you start Pepe Saya, and why butter?
Oh, butter. I mean, the it's always a difficult question to answer, but because you saw, I did really stumble across the idea rather than it copying someone or doing that. So what happened is we had a dessert business called Homemade Fine Foods, and we were supplying desserts into like Thomas Stark's, Harris Farm, a lot of the independent retailers. We're doing grab-and-go desserts, which were like tiramisu, panna cotta, crumbles. Great little business. And we started that business, myself, Myrna Toke, that now owns or runs Crumpets by Myrna, and Melissa Altman, which is my wife. The three of us started that together. And then I branched out into butter because just before Christmas one year, we had about 200 litres of cream left over, and we couldn't get rid of the cream, and we were shutting for like 5 weeks. And we called around, you know, you call around all your mates in production houses and you go, oh, do you want some cream? I got some leftover cream. No one wanted it. So I decided, oh, look, let's just whip this up and turn it into butter so we don't have to waste the cream, right? So we did that, and out of the 200 litres of cream, we ended up with 10 kilos of butter, which is like nothing, right? And there was a big mess. I mean, we were using this small mixer. It was just cream everywhere, and it was a mess. And my guys were going, why are you doing this? Just don't worry about it. So I took some home. I remember it. I took some home. I thought, because Mel really loved eating butters, and she was buying, you know, she'd always buy the international butters because they had a really nice flavour to them. So I took some home and I go, look, Mel, I've made some, you know, some butter here. And she tasted it and she goes, oh, don't give up your day job. It's horrible. Like, because you're just whipping cream really and you're getting butter, and that's just not how good butter's made, right? So that sort of inspired me to sort of look at, okay, well, how is good butter made? And then what are the chefs using? And then so I remember my first meeting with a chef was actually Parsi from he used to use for Mark Best, work for Mark Best at Mark Restaurant in Surrey Hills. So I called him up and I said, oh, I want to come see you and have a chat. And I had a chat with him, and he was buying all in French butter. And it's like, okay, well, why are you buying French butter? What's wrong with Australian butter? And he was like, well, it tastes like water and salt. You can't really serve that to a customer because we're trying to create the ultimate experience here, you know? So it sort of really inspired me to go, okay, well, how do you make really, really nice tasting butter? And how do you become part of that experience in food rather than just butter, you know, or just serving butter or eating butter at home or whatever it is, just plain salted butter. So then I got into the whole culturing thing, and, you know, you need to give it flavour, but you can't just add flavour. You've got to give it natural fermented flavour and all that. So that's really how it all started.
Without giving away too many secrets, what is the secret to good butter?
Like Kung Fu Panda, the secret is nothing. That's the secret. There's just, I don't know if I think the secret to making any good product is that, I know it's going to sound like a cliche, but to be passionate about what you do. I mean, that's really the secret of any good product, to really want to make something. For us, in our case, we wanted to make something our kids would eat, you know, like oh, I'm going to feed this to my kids. That was always our saying right at the beginning, like my kids are going to eat this. So it's got to be like perfection. It's got to be something amazing. So, but to give it flavour and fermenting, I mean, in Australia, we don't really have a history of fermenting food, but the Europeans do. So I think that they do it really well, and we doing all the research was what taught us how to do it, because that information wasn't necessarily available online. You had to pick up the phone and call a lot of people, and even people overseas, and all that. So, fermenting cream is what gives it the flavour. Now, some people ferment the cream for health. We ferment the cream for flavour. And then aging it as long as you can. Fermenting it and then aging it is what retains that flavour. And then, we've had to cut down the flavour a little bit. Like, we've had to ferment a little bit less for the Australian market, because you get phone calls a bit like, oh, it's too strong and whatever. And it reminds me of when I first started in hospitality. I used to work as a waiter, and when blue cheese first came in the market in Australia, it was like people were put off by it, scared by it. And it's like, and that's the same sort of, it reminded me of that when we put out our cultured butter first. It was like that. It was like, people were like, oh, what is this flavor? It's like cheese. The butter's rancid, it's off. And we're like, no, it's okay to eat. It's just a bit pongy. It's meant to be. It's flavor,
So given that, was it easy to convince restaurants and food service to use your butter in the early days, or were there challenges involved?
Oh my God, the challenges. Like 2000. So we started making the butter in 2009, experimenting, and then all the way through 2010. So we launched the butter in November 2010, and then first butters were sold at the farmers market in Carriage Works. But in 2011, say about June, I was on the couch crying, going, it's not going to work. We're going to have to close this down. Restaurants don't want it. They're serving, imported stuff. This is before, like, you could sort of name the chefs that were really onto that. Buy Australian, serve Australian. We want to promote Australian sort of food back in 2010, 2011. Like Neil Perry obviously championed it. You've got Alex Herbert, Jared Ingersoll. Obviously, there's a few. But most of the hatted restaurants, the high-end restaurants were serving imported butters, even our airlines, right? So there was a big market. We knew the market was there, but how do you convince them to go, hold on a sec, just because we're a nobody and we don't have a big brand or anything, how can we convince them to come on board? And turned out I had a very good friend in John Sussman, and I went to him around 2011 and I said, I just can't move it, John. It's no one's taking it. And he goes to me, mate, it's legwork. You just got to go knock on every door. And after that meeting, I remember I was so inspired by that. And I thought, okay, well, maybe we're just expecting people to run to us because we're making what we think is a good product. And even what chefs were eating and going, oh, this is lovely, but I'm not going to take French butter off the menu. To doing that legwork and going out and just a lot of, let's just say it was about 5 years of very, very hard work to get them to move over. And now I'm going through that exact same thing with bakeries that are using imported butter,
Wow.
Like up to a year ago, until we started doing the butter sheets, 100% of croissants made in Australia were imported butter sheets. It's made from imported butter. But no one talks about that stuff. Like, no, well, hold on. That's not doing anything for our farmers, the economy, anything. So Now we're doing the same thing that we did, say, in 2011. I spent 5 years building. We're doing that with bakeries, you know.
So, given all that legwork that you did, what was the major breakthrough in restaurants for you?
Oh, look, you cannot have this conversation without saying or using the name Neil Perry. It can't happen. It's just, for us, I can't have that conversation without using his name, because I mean, at the end of the day, he had to sign off on it. It doesn't matter who we dealt with at Qantas Rockpool. The butter ended up on, business class and first class. Well, at first it was on first class, then it went into business class. But that really created a snowball effect. And the fact that Qantas management let us leverage that. So we had good advice, and we were told, you need to leverage this. And we didn't want to do that without their permission. So we went to them and we said, hey, we want to tell our story. We want to tell that we're on your airline. And they were like, yes, please go ahead. Obviously, it benefited them as well, because we're a small producer and they're helping us. And it shows them in a very good light as well. And they let us do that. And I'm eternally grateful for that. And we could see just that, the impact that had on our business. It was unbelievable. It just snowballed from there.
Now, you've also been a regular fixture at farmers markets. Even though your business has grown exponentially in the last decade, you're still committed to farmers markets. I wonder if you could tell us why that is and how you think they'll bounce back in the sort of post-COVID world.
Look, I think the alternative, obviously the alternative to a big supermarket chain is the independent stores. But the issue we have with independent stores is they sort of carry the same stuff that big supermarkets carry. So if you want seasonal, if you want, amazing products and produce, you've got to go search for it, whether it's at a independent grocery store like, fruit and veg, or a farmer's market really in Australia. So you're not going to get, because the people that go to farmers markets, like we sell a lot of things at our farmers market stalls that we wouldn't sell at an independent grocer even, because they won't take the risk. It might have too short shelf life. For example, our buttermilk, you can only buy it from our farmers markets. So I think they'll bounce back in a big way. There's no doubt. They're definitely not dead. I mean, we're seeing great turnouts at Orange Grove last weekend during the COVID period. I mean, they had to shut for a few weeks, but, since they've been open, it's been great guns there. In regards to my attendance to farmers markets, I mean, I think they're amazing. They give people an alternative. They give us a direct way into market. I don't have to pay for a store somewhere. I can just be at the market and pay for a stall where I'm using it once a week. It's affordable. I'm part of a community. I can reach my customers. We find it invaluable for the amount of feedback you get in a farmer's market. I mean, the type of people that go to a farmer's market don't hesitate to tell you, hey, Pepe, you need to do something about this, or I didn't like that, or, they just come out and say it, which you sort of need to listen to, even though it irritates the hell out of me. But, I've got to take it on board and I've got to fix it. So I do that. But yeah, the markets, I mean, considering our brand started at a farmer's market, the first butters sold were at Carriage Works. We feel very comfortable in that environment. We know it very well. I can bring out products like last weekend. We sold our Chantilly mascarpone at Orange Grove, and at Epic Market in Canberra, and they were the only two places selling it. That's it. So you're able to do things very, very quickly, and you're able to get product to people very quickly that a store might not take because it's got a two-week shelf life.
What do you love about what you do?
I guess the best thing about what we do is the people that we deal with. I mean, the hospitality industry, it's full of so many amazing characters, to be honest with you, and it's fun. You know what I mean? So we have a really good time in our business with all the people. So for me, I deal with, one day I'm dealing with farmers, and the next day might be distributors, and the other day it's chefs and cafe owners, and then, now with all the online, we're dealing directly with the public a lot more. So that's pretty crazy as well.
As you're just sort of mentioning, you do have a really strong connection with the hospitality sector. How do you see the state of that in the next 6 months, and what do you think is going to emerge as the industry opens up?
Yeah, very interesting. I think that it'll open up. What I saw on the weekend is a lot of restaurants and cafes opening up and seating 10 people, which I thought originally that, oh my God, how's that going to work? But it sort of worked. I mean, people want to go out, people want to get back to it. I think it'll open back up, and a lot of people will be out. Social distancing is obviously going to have an impact on that, how much revenue they can make, what impact that has on the survival of their business. I do think that there'll be a lot more leaning cafes, if I can call them that, open up in the future. So what I mean by that is places that don't have any tables and chairs, they've just got a bar that you lean on. Like, when you go, I don't know if you go to Rome, for example, nearly every cafe that you go to is sort of, forget the tourist ones, we're talking about, for the general public there, the Italians go to, they're just all, you lean on a bar and have your coffee or your panini, and then you get going, so it's more designed for a fast turnaround and less contact. So if you were going to open a cafe today, or any type of business, in your business plan, you're going to write the word pandemic,
yeah,
which none of us ever wrote before, right? So, I've worked for multiple businesses and written many business plans, and never did we write the word pandemic on a business plan. So this generation is going to be writing the word pandemic on every business plan written from now on. So if you're going to open a cafe now, you're going to want your coffee machine and your service area right near the door where there's a window that you can serve out of. So if another pandemic hits, you'll want to be able to access to people straight away. You will no longer have a coffee machine and a till at the end of the room.
Yeah.
You'll have it as close to the door as possible. So there's a lot of changes that I see that are going to happen. But how quickly we can get people back into restaurants is only time will tell. But I think people are pretty much ready to go out and party.
Well, just on that, I mean, how has this current crisis made you feel, and what are the positives to come out of it?
Oh, look, the best thing that's come out of this for us is it's shown us the weaknesses in our business. It's highlighted them. So our business will change dramatically. We will not go back to doing business how we were doing it before. There's a lot of things that we just won't do. We've got to make sure that we're robust enough if another pandemic hits. If another one hits in, they relax it and then it comes back in 6 months or whatever, you're going to be thinking about all those things. So like you were saying before, are you going to keep online? Or yes, we're going to keep online and we're going to promote the hell out of it. And we want a lot of people to jump on board on that. So we'll be breaking down barriers and hurdles on how to get product to people easier and quicker and make it more affordable, So now we have a minimum $50 spend. I'd like to see that drop to like a $20 spend, that you can use the service more often. So yeah, there are a lot of changes that this pandemic is going to make us do, because the first week of the pandemic, we felt very, very exposed. And that's us. Imagine a restaurant, imagine a cafe, like once bitten, twice shy, right? Like if I was a restaurant owner now, like what would I be thinking? Like how would I make this work? How's it going to work in a pandemic?
Well, just on that, like, what do you think are the keys to restoring that public confidence sort of in restaurants and the food scene moving forward?
Oh, definitely just to open up. So once it's safe, or they deem it safe, I mean, I can't go contrary to what the health authorities say, but once they open it up, I think people will just jump back. There's a percentage of people that'll just jump back onto, the scene and go back out. Like we saw it this weekend, every place that I walked past in Surrey Hills, Alexandria, that had 10 seats available, they were all full, all the time, I live opposite to Pino's, the Cucina down in Alexandria, and he had 10 people in there since Friday night. It was great. It was great to see him with people in it again, So I think people just start doing it. I don't think they're going to be scared to do it.
Have you been in a restaurant yet? And
I've been in a cafe. I've sat in a cafe and I went to Crown Street Grocer on yesterday, and we sat down. He had like 10 seats, and we sat down and we ate there. Yeah, it was great. I couldn't wait. Couldn't wait to leave home and do that.
Well, I guess there's going to be an opportunity now as we sort of slowly open up to do that more and more. Mate, it's been bloody great chatting with you, and I think there's so much more to talk about, but we might keep in touch and catch up with you again down the line. Thanks for having a chat with us today.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we share the stories of Australia's hospo community, suppliers and producers in search of hope during this pandemic. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.